Now that you have discovered the method and the secret of the Pro's Pro, let's look at the teaching aid Set and Lock itself, a tool which lets you see and, more importantly, feel the right action of your wrist. Let's start with the proper installation of the Set and Lock. Set and Lock can be used by right hand or left hand players alike. It should be installed on the right forearm or left forearm for lefties. We will see later in this video other possible use for the Set and Lock. Insert the forearm in the wristbands and make sure to place the bend of the Set and Lock over the joint of your wrist. This is critical. When you bend the right wrist, the back of your hand should touch the Set and Lock without effort. Please note that this movement does not correspond to the setting of the wrist during the swing. It is simply to ensure that the Set and Lock is properly installed. Once the Set and Lock is properly installed, take a club, take your grip, and position yourself at the address position. If your grip is neutral, you should immediately notice that the back of your right hand is away from the back of the Set and Lock. Indeed, when you take your grip, an angle of about 10 degrees naturally forms at the back of your wrist. The difference of the angle between the back of your right wrist and the back of the Set and Lock represents the setting of your wrist during the swing. Let's look at this setting in order to better understand the movement of the wrist. For demonstration purposes, we will use a second Set and Lock on the left forearm, indicated by the red face. Again, you will notice that the back of each hand is away from the back of the Set and Lock. Now, arm your wrist in front of you from top to bottom and not from side to side. Notice what happens. The back of the right hand comes in contact with the back of the Set and Lock on the right forearm. This is visible proof that the angle of the right wrist increases at the time of setting and thus during the swing. At the opposite, you will note that the space between the left hand and the back of the Set and Lock on the left forearm has remained the same. It has not changed. Throughout the entire swing, the left wrist angle must absolutely remain constant, otherwise you will manipulate the face of the club. If the angle decreases, it will close the face of the club. If it increases, it will open the face of the club. In both cases, you will have to compensate on the downswing or end up with a slice or a draw. The easiest way to keep the left wrist angle steady is to control the back of your right wrist. Indeed, if you focus your attention on your right wrist and thanks to the help of the Set and Lock, you will learn to control the left wrist angle. And while we're talking about setting the wrist, let's take a few minutes to analyze the position of the hands and of the club at 9 o'clock during the backswing. This position is of great importance, for it dictates the rest of the club's path and plane. As you can see, at 9 o'clock, the club is in line with the tip of your toes, and the face of the club is perpendicular to the ground. In other words, the head of the club points towards the sky. If we turn the angle of the camera, you will see that the back of the right hand is not yet totally against the back of the Set and Lock. If we come back to the address position, you will note that the setting of the wrist is almost non-existent at this moment of the swing. The setting of the wrist must occur gradually. Do not rush this movement, otherwise you risk to pick up your club, that is, to raise the club with your hands. Instead of using the small muscles in the hands, you should use the big muscles in your shoulders. Using the hands will usually reduce the arc of the swing and thus create a loss of distance. Be patient with your wrist and hands, since the remainder of the setting will follow during the backswing and the downswing. Now, let's go back to the main use of the Set and Lock on the right wrist for the right-hand golfer. Once again, take your grip and your address position. Raise your club to 9 o'clock. Note the position of the back of your right hand relative to the back of the Set and Lock. Continue the swing. Turn the right shoulder. You should feel that the back of the right hand is now in contact with the back of the Set and Lock. The angle of the right wrist is now entirely set. Your wrists are completely set. The right elbow points towards the ground and pushes slightly towards the left elbow. The elbows have remained equidistant during the entire backswing. Now, let's start the downswing. The first thing to do is to transfer the weight of the body from the inside of the left foot to the outside of the left foot, while keeping the right knee steady. This simple movement will force the knees to come apart and will result in leg separation. You should have the sensation of sitting down. All good players share this sensation. The feeling of sitting down at the start of the downswing will ensure a proper position. The simple fact of transferring the weight of the left foot will also cause a downward movement of the hands and the club, while the upper body remains quiet. It is a consequence of the weight transfer, starting with the left foot. During this action, the back of the right hand has remained in contact with the back of the set and lock. If this is the case, you have just eliminated the most common fault of a large number of golfers, namely starting the downswing from the hands in an attempt at hitting the ball from the top of the swing. As we learned previously, launching the head of the club towards the ball only generates arm speed and body speed, but no distance. In order to preserve the energy created during the backswing, you must delay for as long as possible the impact of the club on the ball and keep the back of the right hand in contact with the back of the set and lock when changing direction of the swing. Thanks to the set and lock, you will have an immediate feedback. Once more, our goal is to get you to feel these sensations, to allow you to repeat them, and consequently to progress rapidly. Now, let's analyze the club's position at 9 o'clock during the downswing. Same as during the backswing, at 9 o'clock, the club is in line with the tip of the toes, and the head of the club is perpendicular to the ground, pointing towards the sky. A perfect position to attack the ball. We are entering the red zone, the impact zone. The back of the right hand is in contact with the back of the set and lock. All that remains is to go through the ball with the shoulders. Do not try to hit the ball with your hands. The back of the right wrist stays locked. The back of the right hand stays in contact with the back of the set and lock. Do not attempt to unset your wrist. This action will come naturally. You must feel the rotation of the left forearm. The radius and the ulna fall into place in order to release the left elbow. The release of the left elbow is one of the critical factors to increase the speed of the club. The left hip clears out of the way in order to let the arms, hands, and club go through. The faster you move the left hip, the greater the speed you can impart to the club. It's like throwing something, and all throwing activity calls upon the left hip for a right-handed person. It is a pulling force, and remember that a pulling force is much stronger than a pushing force. Getting back to 9 o'clock in the downswing, the back of the right wrist is locked, the back of the right hand is against the back of the set and lock. Now for the moment of impact, the back of the hand is against the back of the set and lock. The fingers of the right hand never pass before the heel pad of the hand. You have the impression of hitting the ball with the heel pad of your right hand. Do not try to move your hand from the back of the set and lock. Do not attempt to cover the left hand with your right hand. Stay in contact with the set and lock. Once again, it's a question of feeling. Thanks to the set and lock, you will have an immediate and clear feedback on the movement of your wrist. As you noticed in Phil's demonstration of the method, the longer you keep your right wrist locked, the longer and straighter your ball will be, and you will also be able to control the effect you wish to give to your ball. Practice without a club. Learn this feeling of hitting with the heel pad of your right hand. Open your fingers and keep the back of the right hand in contact with the set and lock. Notice that the fingers of the right hand never overtake the heel pad of the hand. Now, holding your club, try to keep this feeling as long as possible in the red zone. After the impact, as a result of the weight of the club and the centrifugal force, it is evident that the back of the right hand has a tendency to move slightly away from the set and lock, but never at the moment of impact. This feeling of separation occurs almost at the time when the hands are about level with the left hip. Again, thanks to the set and lock, you have an immediate feedback on the movement of your wrist. You feel instantly what your wrists are doing. Quite often, beginners and those with eye handicaps experience a problem with the positioning of the right elbow at the top of their swing. Once more, the set and lock can help solve this problem easily. The plane of the right elbow and its position at the top are especially important and even critical if one is to hit the ball correctly. If the elbow is out of kilter, not only is it difficult to keep the face of the club square, but it is impossible to hit the ball hard. Even though it is not exactly the correct setting of the wrist, we suggest that you work on the following exercise. First, let's try without the club. Take your position, left hand behind your back. The right hand is open and the back of the right hand is away from the back of the set and lock. Slowly go up to the 9 o'clock position, gradually bringing the back of the right hand in contact with the back of the set and lock. Stop. The hand is perpendicular to the ground and rests totally on the back of the set and lock. Now, continue to turn and to go up, pushing the back of the hand on the set and lock. At the top, the elbow points to the ground. The top of the right arm is far from the torso. You have the feeling of carrying a tray in the right hand. You are now in a perfect position. You feel that if you go down, you can hit with great force from this position. Go down and push the back of the hand along with the set and lock. Always stay in contact. Go to the 3 o'clock position and the follow through. Repeat the same movement by gripping with your left hand. Imagine there is a club and grip your left thumb with your right hand. From the address position, slowly go up while bringing the back of the right hand in contact with the set and lock. Stop at 9 o'clock. The hands are perpendicular to the ground and you should see 2 knuckles of your left hand. If you had a club in your hands, the club would be square. Continue the backswing by pushing the back of the right hand against the set and lock. Once more, you are in a correct position. At the top, you are carrying a tray. Go down while pushing with the set and lock until you reach the 3 o'clock position. Go through with your shoulders. Now repeat with the club in your hands. Take your grip and take the address position. Think about PGA, posture, grip, alignment. Start the backswing by gradually bringing the back of the right hand in contact with the set and lock. Monitor your position at 9 o'clock. The club is in line with the tip of your toes. The head of the club points towards the sky and the club is perpendicular to the ground. Continue the backswing, turning the right shoulder. Your hands are about even with your shoulders. The right arm is away from the torso and the elbow points towards the ground. Gently push the right elbow towards the left elbow. You have the feeling of carrying a tray. The back of your right hand is against the set and lock. Start the downswing and transfer your weight starting from the left foot. Your weight goes from the inside to the outside of the left foot. It is a force which comes from the ground and which pulls. The knees come apart, resulting in the separation of the legs. The right knee has remained locked. You have the sensation of sitting down. The hands and the club follow downward automatically. The hands and the club move in the desired angle of attack without having to make a loop at the top. The club will travel from the inside naturally. At 9 o'clock, the club is in line with the tip of the toes. The club is square. The head of the club is perpendicular to the ground. The back of the right hand is touching the set and lock. All you need to do is to go through with the shoulders. The left hip clears and the arms and club follow. The back of the right wrist stays locked. The back of the right hand stays in contact with the set and lock as long as possible. At 3 o'clock in the follow-through, the club is in line with your belly button. The club is square. The head of the club is perpendicular to the ground. The left forearm has rotated slightly. It is now positioned to allow the left elbow to release. The elbows have retained the same spacing they had at the start. In fact, they have remained equidistant throughout the entire swing. At this point, the right hand is slightly away from the set and lock. Take note of this position. Do not manipulate the angles with your wrists. Remember that what we are striving for is to keep the back of the left wrist in the same position during the entire swing. in order to prevent manipulating the face of the club, which is in fact controlled by the back of the right wrist. Again, the set and lock provides you with accurate information. You can visualize what you do with your wrists. At this point, all that needs to be done is to finish the rotation. The left hip clears and the shoulders continue their rotation. The right foot rises and comes to rest on the tip of the toes, the sole in the direction of the target, so as to free the right hip and to complete the rotation of the entire body. Remember that it is a rotating motion. The club and the hands do not move down the line, in other words towards the target. For maximum acceleration and a straight ball, the club and the hands move towards the left, never on the target line. In the finished position, the weight is on the left side of the body is in perfect balance, and you can now smile for the camera. Any club, any stroke, set and lock. As we saw on the previous section on the method, the set and lock movement of the right wrist is true for all the strokes, from the driver to the sand wedge, even when putting. Any stroke can relate to the set and lock. You're using a driver? Set and lock. You're using your 3-wood? Set and lock. A long iron? Set and lock. A short iron? Set and lock. With your wedges? Set and lock. In the bunkers? Set and lock. While chipping? Set and lock. Pitching? Set and lock. Your pro tells you that you're using your hands and wrists when putting? Put the set and lock on the right or left forearm and put some images to the words. Visualize your angles and your movement. Instantly, the set and lock shows you what you're already doing. Before leaving this lesson, let's quickly look at another use of the set and lock. We will now wear it on the left forearm for a right-hand golfer. The fold of the unit is always positioned on the wrist joint. With the set and lock in this position, we will have a constant visual interpretation of the motion of the left wrist during the entire swing. As you've learned, it is critical to maintain the angle of the left wrist in a locked position, otherwise you will manipulate the face of the club. You will see that when you change the positioning of the left wrist relative to the set and lock, you open or close the face of the club. So, if you want your club to remain square, make sure to keep the left wrist locked in the same position throughout the entire swing, and use the set and lock to visualize that you do so. One last thing regarding the set and lock. As you've seen, it is a simple but effective teaching tool. The set and lock is very light, less than 3 ounces, which allows you to train without the pressure of the club, but also to hit balls without any restraint. You can bring it with you and use it anywhere. At home, to acquire the right feeling, with or without a club, and without a ball, but also at the driving range, in the bunkers, or the practice green. We encourage you to use it as well on the course during training games. Don't hesitate. The set and lock is your best ally if you wish to improve. Good training and have the best game of your life with the set and lock.